I'm not a wrestling fan by any stretch of the imagination. I don't get the appeal of it. It's all scripted. I hate to use the word fake, but it's not reality. But I am a huge fan of Stephen Merchant. I would bet pretty much none of you have ever heard that name before. Well, Stephen Merchant is was the writing partner of Ricky Gervais, who you probably know that name. He hosted the Golden Globes a couple times, and he created and co-directed, co-wrote The Office, not the horrible American remake. I'm talking about the British original, which is one of the funniest things that I think has ever been created in the history of comedy. So this film is written and directed by Stephen Merchant. That's the reason I went to see it. And it's based on a true story about a young girl named Paige. I didn't catch her last name, but she is from Norwich, England, which is about 2 hours northeast of London. The family is a wrestling family, and she gets a shot at auditioning for WWE. And I don't want to say much more. I think the trailers do reveal that she does get into WWE. And so, yeah, I had, knowing nothing about wrestling, not caring about wrestling, I still went to see it. Now, here's the thing. The movie is billed as a comedy, or that's the impression it's given. The movie's not really a comedy, though. It has comic elements, but it plays more like a Rocky film, or, the film where the antagonist has to overcome all odds to prove himself, or in this case herself, the redemption story. And you have to there's subplots with the family and home, putting undue pressure on the antagonist, or in this case Paige, because the family doesn't have much going for it other than love, which of course that's an undercurrent that we see develop throughout the film. There's also a subplot with a bit of jealousy with Paige's older brother, who also tried out for WWE and doesn't get selected, which I think that was in the trailer as well. So there's that thing going on too. It's a typical come-up story. I'm curious to know. I'm curious about two things. One, why does Stephen Merchant choose to write and direct this particular story? It doesn't strike me as something he would do whatsoever. And two, I'm curious how much of this was kind of manufactured versus what actually happened. I guess I'll never know. At the end of the film, we do see actual clips of the real family engaged in things or involved in things, which I don't want to give away, that we see in the film, which I was thinking were things that were just manufactured so that they could tell a story, a particular story. But it looks like the things that I saw in the film actually happened. But what made the film kind of odd to me is that, first of all, I can't divorce the fact that I'm dealing with Stephen Merchant, a brilliant comedy writer. And much like a film that he and Ricky Gervais worked on years ago, it was a film which I'm sure you've never heard of, called Cemetery Junction. I don't know if it was even released in the States. But again, I'm dealing with Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, and I'm thinking I'm going to get a film that has the humor that I really like, is that sarcastic, kind of nasty type of humor. But that's not what this is at all. There are bits of it in it, but this is more of like that feel-good Rocky type of John Avildsen type of story, which I wasn't expecting at all. So here's my dilemma. The element that I was looking for in this film was kind of non-existent, that biting humor that I'm talking about, that Stephen and Ricky are known for. And you take that away, and so basically I've got a film that's about wrestling and a young girl trying to become a wrestling star. And like I said, I don't really give two craps about wrestling. But you know what I learned watching this is that it doesn't matter what the environment is, or it doesn't matter what the milieu is. It's always good to see a come-up story. As corny as it may be, you can't really complain about a come-up story. And this film, it is successful in that regard. And if I'm not mistaken, it was, I'm just going to name names, Big Sexy, my fellow red shirt. He was the one who informed me that The Rock's production company is the one who funded this, I believe. I hope I have that right. He'll correct me if I'm wrong, of course. But, and as, you know, as is the case, as you would expect, The Rock does make a couple of cameo scenes in this. The first one was probably the best. The Rock's acting is, he was right on point in this film. He's got some comedy chops. You know, I'm not going to run out and go see The Tooth Fairy or anything like that, but, you know, it's funny mentioning The Tooth Fairy. That reminds me that Stephen Merchant and The Rock worked together on that film going way back. I think that film came out around the beginning of The Rock's career. Vince Vaughn, whom I haven't seen in a long time, he is a lead in this film as well. He plays the coach who auditions all of the potential wrestlers, and you know he has a perfunctory role. He's the Joe Clark, the Lean on Me Joe Clark character of the film. He's the Burgess Meredith character from Rocky in this film, or I guess I should say for the younger viewers, he is the Rocky from the Creed films of this film. And he does a good job. He's not really asked to do much, but he's good. He's good. Pretty much all the cast is really good. It's a good ensemble. Lena Headey, I believe that's her name, from Game of Thrones, plays the mother to Paige. Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. He's really funny. I can't remember the name of the older brother. I don't recognize him in anything, but he's very good as well. So all around, it's good performances from the cast. So given that, even though, despite the fact that I'm not a wrestling fan, how many times have I said that now? And it's one of those kind of predictable, feel-good movies. It does what it's supposed to do. You know, towards the end, I'm not giving anything away, but if you've seen any movie of this type, you pretty much know what's going to happen. And plus, it's based on a true story. I found myself during the big final scene on the edge of my seat. My heart was pumping, blood was pounding, and so, you know, the film did what it set out to do. So what, you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to give this movie 3 reels out of 5. If you are a wrestling fan, by all means, I think you should go out and see this in the theater while it's still playing. Otherwise, you know, you could probably wait for it on HBO, Netflix, whatnot. But I would say check it out. It's worth a look. And that's the Martini.